Manager, where's the manager? It's about, oh yeah.
This is for you, Ron. This is for you and your people.
I like that.
So
Yeah,
is the
that's
release.
Yes. Yes.
nice.
Just to
Nice.
support firearms in Canada. Freedom. Keep Canada
Yes.
tactical.
So I'm gonna go pick my gun up today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I actually got my letter over a week ago saying I could go pick it up, but I've just been busy and I was out of town. I went to the island to help my dad move today, or this weekend, I mean. And so the guy called me and said, hey, a couple days later, the guy called me. He's like, hey, you can come get your firearm. And I was like, yeah, I just been really busy. I go, how many days can you guys hold it for? And he goes, oh, actually, legally, we're supposed to hold it for 365 days. And I was like, oh, well, I got plenty of time. I'll come get it soon.
Yeah.
I think I can make that happen.
I thought I was going to have to run down there and get it. You know what I mean? Because I've just been busy. But
So
it's
do you know how it works there? Like, first of all, does this gun shop also have a range? Will you be able to open up and start cracking off some sending rounds, as the kids say nowadays?
sending rounds. No,
Yeah.
This gun shop doesn't have a range, but I'll be able to get everything I need there, including the lock box and all that stuff.
Gotta have a lockbox.
Yeah, and then there's actually a range literally next door to the gym.
Oh, nice. No kidding.
Like
I didn't know
one building up.
that. Okay.
Just one building up, there's a shooting range. You see people there all the time. Like, it's like, people go there for fun, and you can rent, you know what I mean? It's like that type of place. You go there and just like Joe Blow can just go there and shoot some rounds, or you can take your gun there and shoot some rounds. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I'll probably use that place because it's right next door to the gym. So
Absolutely.
it's in my neighborhood and that sort of thing. So,
And indoors, it sounds like indoors would
Yeah,
be good.
yeah,
That way,
yeah,
for
indoors,
Canadian
yeah.
winters, you can still shoot any time of the year.
yeah,
It's good.
yeah. So, I'm going to go and, get my lock box, and I'm going to load up on the things I need. Like, I don't know, you have to buy your own like headset.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I'll show you after the show or something.
You got one. Yeah.
Yeah.
like,
You
I
can
gotta
get
all that stuff.
Yeah, you can get some. They have good ones now that are that are electronic. So we call it Ear Pro. So you need your Eye Pro and your Ear Pro. Your Ear Pro, you can actually like crank up the sound, and you can have like supersonic hearing on top of having the shots muffled. So it's kind of cool.
Right. Yes. I want to be a cyborg.
You do. It's one step closer,
And then, of course, I'm assuming I'm going to have to get like a really cool bag, like a real shooter's bag. Like, I could put my lockbox in the bag, and my Eye Pro and my Ear Pro, and I'm sure there's like a real good bag.
I've got this one. It might be
something like that.
This might be a little more than you need. This is my bag, 511 tactical bag here. And this,
There you go, tactical bag. That's what I need.
Yeah, check this out here.
Let's see this. Let's do a
right
show
here.
and tell.
Boom. You got all my
Boom.
bags right there. You got the.
Keep going.
There's
us one thing.
there's a bunch more to it.
You only showed us one thing. Don't fuck me on this one. Let's go.
All right. Well, you can also take this central piece out.
There we go.
And this central
There we
piece, you
go.
can keep all your. You can put this right up on your bench. So this central piece is where you keep all your ammo and stuff. So that's kind of cool.
That's cool.
And you can put a bunch of guns in there. It's nice. It's nice.
Bunch of guns.
Yeah, just a
Bunch of guns.
Just dump them all in there.
Yeah.
I don't use.
Just dump them all.
I don't use a lockbox. In fact, I generally just do something
Bring
like
it
that.
in.
Yeah, just bring
Yeah,
it in.
yeah.
You have to
See,
have a
that's-
lockbox everywhere in Canada. Like when you can't like, just carry it in your pocket.
Oh no, restricted
Oh,
firearm.
no.
Handguns are like almost completely illegal in every possible setting and sense.
That's
You
nuts.
can take it the shortest possible distance from your home to your range or your gun club, and that is the only two places on the planet you're allowed to have it. You can't fucking take it anywhere else for any other reason.
So you can't have it at work.
No.
Okay. Wow.
No. Yeah.
What if you lived at the gym?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Well, I guess if you could convince them it was your home.
put a cot up and just put a cot up in
But-
the corner.
Because you got
But-
a shower. You're
Yeah.
there most of the time.
Yeah, there's food.
Yeah.
There you go. See, I got you.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know. Figure it out. So yeah, it'll be a fun new hobby for me.
It'll be cool.
I'm loading up on hobbies. I'm really hobby.
You really
full of
are.
hobby.
How's the guitar thing going?
You are.
Going good.
Yeah?
I've
the
actually been
bass?
I've been playing the bass quite a bit because it's really fun.
Yeah.
I forgot. Like, I never really played bass. I kind of just like fooled around on a bass a few times because my buddy had one. I borrowed it for like a couple weeks one time and just played a little bit, but I never really played much bass. But it's pretty fun. You know, there's a lot of it's a physical instrument. When you play guitar, you don't necessarily feel every strike because the strings are pretty thin and light. So like, you know, you hear, like, you're like, oh, I nailed that note perfectly, but you don't always feel it like in the pick. But with the bass, it's like every pick is like snap, snap, snap. You're kind of like almost a drummer.
So you're playing the bass with a pick, not with the fingers.
Yeah, I mean, you can do either. Some people are pickers, you know, some people, you know. I had someone ask me that already. That's so funny. Someone said, oh, I noticed you use a pick. And I was like, yeah, lots of bass players do. Like if you look at old Metallica, Cliff Burton, the original bassist, who was like the goat of bass playing, right? The original goat.
Yeah.
He played with his fingers. So like the first 4 Metallica albums are all Cliff.
You could kind of like grab.
First, yeah.
You can get like a grab to the strings. You know what I mean?
That's a lot of like funk players.
Yeah.
Play with their fingers, you know, and then there's like the slappers that use their thumb, like the jazz and funk guys use their thumb. And there's also the bass is a really cool instrument. There's a million different ways to play it. But, you know, if you look at Cliff Burton, you know, the first few Metallica albums up to Master of Puppets, he was a finger guy. And then when they brought in Jason Newsted, he played with a pick. So, but, you know, both sound great, you know, it's just their styles. But I've been learning Nirvana songs, and Chris Novoselic played with a pick. He was a picker, so I've been using a pick to get, you know, kind of the same feel. Pretty fun. Yeah, ripping it up, man. You know, instead of like surfing YouTube for 20 minutes aimlessly after I eat breakfast to just like, you know, get a little space before I start my day. Instead of doing that, I just been picking up the bass and hammering out a few songs, and yeah, I think I'm mentally healthier. Less scrolling, less surfing, less Instagramming.
I think
there's swipe, more pick. Interesting.
Yes, swiping, more picking.
There's something to it. I do think when you train yourself to do new skills, it creates new neural pathways in your brain, and from what I understand, that's what keeps us young, you know? That's what keeps us remembering things and stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny because I actually heard someone talking about that, and they were saying they were using examples of things that are really good to do. And, you know, they were saying how learning another language is really healthy for your brain. That doesn't, for some reason, learning another language just didn't appeal to me. It always seemed kind of boring. Like, I don't really care enough to learn another language, I don't think. But then I heard someone else say that music counts as a language.
As another language.
Oh, really?
They're like the same. They're like a lot of the same. There's a lot of the same stuff going on in your brain because you know there's some other things happening too because it's also different. But it covers like a lot of the same bases, and it's really, really great for you, and it's equally as good for you. And so I was like, oh fuck. Plus, there's a physical coordination thing to it as well.
Yeah,
which I think is kind of interesting. I wonder if there's any carryover, you know. But yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. I mean, I've always played guitar, like hacky guitar. You know, I've always owned a guitar and picked one up and, you know, fucked around on it here and there. Yeah, I was going to talk about something. I might as well do it now because it was the main thing on my list. But I noticed that taking up these hobbies now, I am approaching them far different, like completely different than when I picked up these hobbies as a kid. Because when I started playing guitar in high school, I just thought, okay, well, what do I like? And I'd just be like, I like AC/DC. So I just like look through an AC/DC tab book and just like fuck around with the whole book. Like, I'll learn the riff to this and what's the riff to that, and I'll try this and try that. And the next thing you know, I can kind of play most of the riffs off this album, but none of the solos and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm approaching it like a bodybuilder. I'm like, okay, today I'm working on this song. I'm going to play this song 10 times. Like everything is like organized. And that's how I think. I go, okay, I'm going to eat breakfast and then I'm going to play that song 10 times in a row. And I'm just going to try to get better at it. I'm just going to keep playing the song over and over, and I'll just play it 10 times in a row, really get some practice in on that song. And then I'm going to work on clients for 2 hours straight. So it's like way different because I'm targeted. I'm like, okay, today I'm working on this and I'm going to learn this and I'm going to do these things 10 times each. And I got about 15 minutes. So I'm going to hammer through it. And then I got to go, you know, so I'm just way more efficient. Just like when I'm on my bike, I'm like, oh, today I'm just going to do stuff that I can already do because I just want to have fun and I only have 45 minutes. So I'm just going to practice my tricks. Yeah. But then I might go Saturday, I have 2 hours. So Saturday I'm going to go out and I'll practice my tricks. And then for an hour, I'll work on shit I can't do.
Yeah.
Which means like frustrating and kind of boring and like, you know, falling down sometimes and, you know, not really doing anything that looks cool. And you know what I mean? You're just working on skills and it's like, but I'm going to make myself do that. And I have an hour to do that Saturday. And it just makes me way more structured. And I think way more productive. Like, and it's way more enjoyable because I'm not like lost. Like, you know, when you're a kid and you're just like doing something as a hobby, you don't really have any, like, you know, where are you going? You know? Yeah. Like you're just learning
the same way most people approach the gym.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like I used to buy a guitar magazine and I just go home and look at the riffs they had that month in the magazine and I just fool around with them, but I wouldn't really get good at any of them. And I might play them each like 3 times and just be like, oh, that was interesting. But there was no direction.
Yeah. But same like a kid gets the muscle magazine and he like tries this arm workout for a couple times, you know,
does this chest workout and maybe fucks around with this split and 2 weeks later he does this split and he doesn't stick to anything. But now I have like a goal. Like I set a goal. I'm going to learn, there's 2 Nirvana albums. I want to learn all the guitar and bass to.
Cool.
Right.
Entire albums, Bleach and Nevermind, guitar and bass for the entire thing. I already know a heap of the guitar because that's what I initially started playing. Yeah. But I'm just going to learn similar. Both. Yeah, very similar. So I'm just going to learn both complete start to finish. That's my goal. So I have exact things I'm working on and like, you know, chipping away, working yourself through. It's just, it's way more. And plus then you can like see the end. You're like, oh, I have a goal.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited because I believe I'm going to complete these goals. I'm going to learn both these albums.
I used to play all
How
that
long is that
shit
going to take?
Well, I don't know how long till I know them or how long till they sound right.
That would, it was actually, this is what's funny.
To an expert. Sound right to someone who knows something.
No, I'm curious what the answer is, but the reason I asked is because I get that question all the time in bodybuilding and it drives me crazy because the answer is you don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just doing it. And that's that I wanted to do the time because I get that all the time. Well, how long is it going to take me to do this? I'm like, well, if I say 5 years, are you going to not do it?
Yeah. So I guess the answer is the same. It's like, you know, how are they ever really done?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, am I ever really playing them perfect? Exactly like the album, right? Like perfect. Has that ever really happened? You know, can you ever really sound like him? Can you ever really get the right tone? Can you ever really get the right equipment to get the right tone? You know what I mean? Like if your goal is to make it sound perfect, then it's never going to end. So that's kind of, I guess the answer is, you know, do you ever really play anything right? You know?
Right.
So yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. And it's also like just really interesting to see like how naturally my brain organizes these tasks into divisions, like leg day, chest day, back day.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how my brain works now. So it's really fun to take up a new hobby because it feels like there's less wondering and spinning your wheels and all that stuff. And I'm sure the same thing will happen once I start going to the range.
Yeah.
I'll like systemize it in my head once I sort of realize what it's all like. I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go shoot a box of this ammo today. I have half an hour, blah, 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 whatever. I don't know how it works, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
A little advice from my friends.
Yeah.
You know somebody who knows a thing or two.
There's so many
on
things.
This call that's not wearing a green shirt.
I do all that stuff.
Actually carrying a gun right now at this moment.
I do all that same stuff where I'm like trying to, you know, figure out one thing. And then, you know, I went today and I only had a half hour. So I was like, I haven't been to the range for about a week. I'm just going to work on my draw from concealment, work on that one thing, repeat.
There you go. Like this is shit I love. This is, my brain is just going to feast on this.
You will. And there's so much, it's cool because there's like a lot of physics to it too, where you start realizing like, if you're shooting over here and down every time, then you can start to figure out why that is, and then you can correct it in your grip or in how you're pulling the trigger. So there's a lot of, and it's information that we probably would have never had 30 years ago if we were trying to figure this stuff out. But now you go to YouTube or you go online, you can figure it all out quickly and be like, oh, this is what I must be doing. I'll try this. And then you get a different result. And, step by step, you get closer. It's just very expensive to figure out because ammo, and I think ammo up there is even more money. I think it's not that cheap.
Scott, are there ever times when you, like at your level, that you have a hard time figuring out what you're doing wrong? If, say, last week you came in and you were just on fire, and then this week you come in and for whatever reason it's not quite the same. Can you typically pretty quickly figure out why, or is it hit or miss?
You know what? I think in general I can figure it out. And for the record, I'm not like, I've been shooting real consistently for over a year now, but like the guys, just like in bodybuilding, like I'm not that good. There are guys that blow me away. Oh yeah. You know what I'm saying? Exactly so like I'm better than your average guy that's just going to like step in there and, just fire shit off. But but yeah, I would say yes. I would say that I can figure out what I need to improve on, And the nice thing is too, is I started using a timer. A range timer is really nice. You won't be able to draw from concealment, Ron, but you don't need to because you're not concealing anyway. But that's the important thing for me is to know. And there's a whole system on how you do it, what you do with your hands, how everything comes together at 4 steps that you use. And then using the range timer, you can measure how good you are, how fast you are. And then you can try to beat that, So it's kind of like the logbook. And then I keep record of my range times, So yeah, very similar. A lot of similarities to bodybuilding and learning anything,
It was cool. The instructor that I had to get my gun license, he showed us a video because he's got like some competition pistols,
Yeah.
And he showed us a speed video of him at like some like high level contest, and I think he got like second or something because he showed us like the final group or whatever.
Yeah.
And like they were so fucking fast, man. Like it was just like, you know what I mean? Just a blur of what they were doing. Like,
yeah,
they were pretty impressive. So yeah, I think he showed it to us on day one, just so we knew that he wasn't some like, at min guy that got stuck with this class.
Yeah, he has to do it.
He's like, I'm a passionate shooter. Like, this is what I do. This is my thing. Like, if you're going to get taught by anybody, like, I fucking know what I'm talking about. So it was pretty cool.
I have a friend that used to train some of the SWAT guys, and I won't say the city because I can't finish the story then. But
good.
He told me, he was like, if you're ever in need of SWAT, call me because they can't help you.
Huh.
Right.
I was like, got it. He was like, and of course there's levels. So I'm sure if someone from SWAT heard that, they'd be offended. But the point is just like you said, Scott, you're talking the amount of time it takes to be that proficient.
Yeah.
I find I'm obsessed. That's why I have to be careful when you guys get in these topics, because I could spend 2 hours asking questions. I love hearing about shit I know nothing about. Because you don't it's like you could compare it to everything, to swinging a golf club. Like, why is it that yesterday I was dead nuts on and today I'm off? Or, you know what I mean? That's why I was asking that, because it really ties in. Whereas for the most part, I feel like the gym, other than your body having aches or pains, like the bar typically goes where I need it to go every time. See ya. Are you going to change shirts again? He changed last week. But no, I'm definitely, I'm fascinated to watch as Ron's style comes together in your guys' conversations for his reps, as he says.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's something I had heard not too long ago. The mechanics of pulling the trigger are very simple, but you have an explosion that is literally going off right by your face. And you want to recoil from that. So what this guy that I was listening to said was that the mechanics of shooting a gun and knowing how to hold it, knowing how to pull the trigger, that's like 5% of it or 10% of it. And the other 95% is controlling the animal in your head that wants to recoil. Because the first time I saw this is interesting. This woman was only ever shooting an air pistol or something. And so they put a live gun in her hand and she dry fires no round. No recoil at all. Like she does, because a lot of times you'll see somebody dry fire and they flinch. Their hands will flinch in anticipation. Nothing.
Right.
She pulls the first round she ever shot in her life out of an actual firearm. Perfect bullseye. Nailed it. First round ever. But after that, she didn't do it anymore. Yep, because then that animal takes over, and that's the whole game, is learning how to overcome the animal in us.
That's so cool.
It really is. Yeah.
I know they say that the snipers, like I've known some snipers, and they say that you like breathe out completely and then you wait for the space between heartbeats to pull the trigger.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Like they let their breath completely go out of their body. So they're just completely flat, and then they wait for the heart to beat, pump, and then they go poof, squeeze the trigger.
That is
kind of cool. You know, the stillest you'll ever be, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was more still than that, but I couldn't pull the trigger. I was asleep. Totally different thing.
Yeah. We didn't tell everyone to like, share, subscribe, comment,
or ring the bell.
I've
been ringing it aggressively lately. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's really hit that fucking bell.
I want to make sure you get contact, you know?
You're upset. Yes. Very upset.
I'm upset they didn't ring it before they got to this point. That's why.
I know. Sometimes we have a little wait. It's like the odd episode you watch where the credits don't come till like 10 minutes in. You're like, oh, that was a long intro.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I feel like it's like contest prep when you've been working with Aceto all year, though. Because we just start talking, and then we oh, fuck. This episode started. We should probably say what episode number it is, which we did this time.
Yeah.
Do the routine. We'll finish strong with a good one at the end of this, Scott. I got you.
All right.
That's all good deal. That's all good. So, Dusty, I want to say I saw your post. You've really taken to this living in a house with 3 other women. It looks like you're...
And they all know each other is there this time. Which is
And you seem very, very happy, and it's good to see, man. And it's, it looks like you're having a good time, and looks like you're in there with you found a great bunch to rescue you as a stray.
I think that's absolutely what happened, and I don't know if I told you, but both of the girls have boyfriends that I like.
Okay.
Oh, no way.
And they're like guys, they're not pussies. I'm like, all right. I was so happy to like one of the first things I ever heard the oldest boyfriend say was coming out of a restaurant, and he had words with a guy, and I actually overheard him say, "I'm not about to be disrespected." And I turned and I'm like, "This can go wherever it needs to go. I don't give a shit." I was just so happy. Yeah. I'm like, I had like a little tear. I was like, he might punch this guy. That's great. So yeah, they actually went to Golden Gloves over the weekend and watched. He's not old enough to do it yet, so he's only 16. I guess here they have to be 18 to compete in that particular one. But I'm getting updates. There was a knockout. I'm getting videos. I'm like, this girl likes boxing. Fuck yes. So yeah, cool. Solid stuff, man. Solid stuff.
A little bit of a woman that likes a little bit of controlled violence is a good thing. She understands how the world works.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
I think it's key. You know what I mean?
Hey, it's key. There's something about combat sports. Some people just fucking hate them, but I don't know, man. I think it's a healthy outlet for those guys. Those guys would be doing it no matter what. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I think you become too if you get it early enough, you kind of become numb to it. Where it's not like a big thing. I remember early on in a relationship I was in, I got a call in the night from my mother, and she was like, "You got to go get your dad." And I'm like, "Where is he?" She's like, "You got arrested." I'm like, "Did you get in a fight?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Fuck." So I tell her, I'm just like getting my stuff, and she goes, "What do you mean you got in a fight?" I'm like, I don't know. I didn't ask. Well, why didn't you ask what happened? I'm like, hey, it happens. I don't really care. I just got to go pick him up. You realize, and my mom, when she calls, she's like, "Hey." I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" She's like, "No, sorry it's so late." There's an intro because it's not a huge deal when you've been around it your whole life. So yeah, it's good that I'm, she's learning these things. It's positive.
Wow. It's just good. I just think, I guess this is my little thing. you don't have to like violence. That's not the point. But you can't be so unused to it that it paralyzes you when it happens around you.
Right.
Like when violence happens around you, you have to be able to react and most likely leave as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Right. You know, in most situations, if violence occurs around you, you want to get away, get safe, get somewhere else as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And so many people just freeze up because they don't know what's going on. Like they can't believe they're seeing violence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they freeze up. And a lot of times they get, you know, elbowed in the face because two people are scrapping right in front of them. And they just go like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, and that's just one example. Like there's a million other scenarios where you have to be able to like, you know, not freeze and be paralyzed and be shocked that violence is occurring. Like we've seen videos where there's like something crazy happening and there's like some fucking, you know, middle-aged woman or man who's completely out of shape, so out of shape they can't even move properly. And instead of trying to get out of the way, they're like looking around going, manager, where's the manager? Like, you know what I mean? That type of thing.
You are in the line of fire still.
In danger. And then they get like knocked over, like violently knocked over, right?
And offended I just that they did.
Because in their mind, an authority figure should just be able to end this.
Yeah.
Like, where's the manager?
There was a video.
Manager? I have a complaint.
I just saw yesterday. You guys will love this.
World.
I got offended if I can send it to you, but it's at like a sporting event, and a couple guys are not even in a fight, but there's a disagreement, and one guy steps back, and he ends up kind of falling onto the lap of a kid that's sitting there. But it's not like a small kid; it's just a kid, and the dad, help, help, help! He grabs the kid, he's screaming, and the comments are like, "Well, thank God that guy stayed calm."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was literally, it didn't even escalate, but that was his immediate response was like, oh my God. Help. I'm like, someone basically sat in your kid's lap.
Yeah. And yelling for help, not actually doing much himself.
Yeah. Not pull him away. Not just, it was a mad scramble. I'm like, what would you do if something actually, like if gunfire took place?
Yeah.
Like
just stand there tall.
Yell help.
Help.
It happens.
I want to speak to the manager. This needs to end.
Yeah, where's the manager? There's someone with a gun. You're not allowed to have that here.
But I think that's a lot though.
Gun-free zone.
It's a lot of society now because I remember there was a gym I used to go to that there was kind of like a busy parking lot out front, a lot of through traffic to other stores. And these kids would literally just be like on their phone, just looking down, walking through the street. And I'm thinking to myself, like, if somebody doesn't stop at that stop sign, if somebody doesn't stop because that kid's like, they would be shocked if they were to get hit because it's not supposed to happen. Somebody wasn't supposed to hit me. They would be shocked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm
not supposed to get hit.
Yeah. Yeah. But guess what? Once you do, you did. You know,
there's a weird comfort in every. I was in Dallas over the weekend, but we were downtown, and you definitely realize there's some sketchy fucking people everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And I took off in the morning, and I wasn't thinking about it, and I have far too much blatantly expensive things on me, and so I'm just being extremely aware and walking around, and then I realized that how many people aren't.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, like I'm always aware, but I'm also extremely like, okay, probably shouldn't have brought this bag with me to wander down the streets where I don't really know where I'm going in Dallas while I'm looking at my phone for directions. You know what I mean? So I'm like looking up, looking around, and it hits me how many people in their own hometowns are far too comfortable because they're like, oh, well, you know, I live in Greenville. I mean, nothing's going to happen here. I'm like, tell it does.
Situational awareness.
Yeah.
Situational awareness is important. I have that's just permanently in me because I worked, you know, in the bar for so long. You know, even as a bartender, you're still looking out at the crowd for problems all the time, you know?
Yep.
And, you know, you hear people kind of arguing. Are those two guys arguing? And then you're aware of it. And you realize no one else notices that they're arguing. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one guy starts waving his hands, and then you start to see the mouse go, fuck you, no, fuck you. And you realize there's these two girls standing beside them that are just giggling, like completely clueless with like martinis in their hands. And you're like, oh, those girls are going fucking flying. Like, you know what I mean? Just the situational awareness is something that I always like probably had too much of. It like ruined a little bit of fun over the years.
Yeah.
You know?
I used to find when I bounced, though, it was nice because sometimes I would see that starting and you could walk over and actually diffuse it before it even happens. Just like walk over and you're like, hey, bro, you got to understand, even if you whip this guy's ass, there's 10 of us. You're fucked. And your night's fucked. And you know what I mean? And then the guy kind of starts to calm down for just a second. You kind of look at each other like, we good? And literally, it was a large percentage of the time because I used to always, my big concern when I was bouncing, I didn't want to get hurt and I didn't want anything to happen.
Yeah.
So if I could get ahead of it, I'm like, please let me make sure that these two don't actually get in a fight because that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't want to somehow roll my ankle something stupid because these two assholes are fighting over nothingness being drunk.
My line used to be, I love getting paid to do nothing, guys. So let's just keep it that way. Like, let's just not, you know, I love to get paid to just stand here all night and look at girls. So let's just don't ruin my evening. You know,
fact.
And they'd usually laugh a bit, right? Like you could get a laugh out of some guys. Oh, okay, fuck yeah, that guy's just annoying me. You're like, yeah, I know. So all good. So we're gonna do some YouTube questions, Scott.
Yeah, let's do them. We got a bunch, by the way, guys. If you want to take part in the next episode, then comment below as always. Plus comments, likes, all that stuff. It helps to boost our shows up. And, you know, we could always use it. I think that I'm starting to get the vibe that YouTube might not like channels that talk a lot about steroids. And
that's why we're talking about cocaine and hookers lately.
Yeah. Yes. So
we rotated.
I think that the channel may not always get seen because I've had people tell me like, they're like, hey, I don't get notifications that the new show came out. So make sure you've got that bell, you know, clicked, all of that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. We didn't even talk about steroids that much.
No, just that, but you know what? It's guilt by association because then I'm on here running my mouth about Anadrol with Dave Crossland, and they're like, you know, all these guys look the same. You know, these giant dudes, they all look the same. So, Jim McDonald has one for us. He says, question for the next episode. Lee Haney said, stimulate, don't annihilate. What did he mean, and was he right?
Well, yeah, he's right. Lee Haney did say that all the time. I mean, Lee Haney trained really hard. He was a volume guy. But I think he was just referring to like, you know, I know that, you know, Tom Platz used to just like murder himself, you know, like he'd do a set with like 10 forced reps and then 20 partials.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think Lee was just saying like, you can't train like that all the time. Like your body's gonna, you know, that's how you break your body eventually, and your body gets like so pounded that you're not going to grow. And he's kind of right. Like you can't train like that every single workout. You know what I mean? Like even Tom Platz didn't train like that every single workout, you know, but you know, he trained hard. I mean, Lee Haney, like I've seen videos of him benching 4 plates for reps. So like, I don't know, maybe it's just the way he, in the context of his mind, he was thinking like, you know, don't do 10 forced reps on every set and all that sort of stuff. I don't know how much he went to failure. He might have only done like the last set to failure, you know, which isn't really that much different than what everyone else does anyways. So a lot of it's semantics.
Maybe he was just a brain ninja. And he was getting the competition to train like pussies while he was training like a freak.
There you go.
Don't train too hard, guys. Yeah.
Just guys, take it. I've been taking it easy. Look at me. I look great. I'm beating you guys, and I'm just fucking around. So why don't you fuck around?
Yeah.
And find out.
You know, what does he mean by stimulate? What's his definition of stimulus? Maybe it's pretty hard, right?
That's actually
What's
a great
annihilate?
point because Dante and John Meadows used to go back and forth like that. Their training was very, very different, and obviously I've worked with both of them. And the biggest difference between, I'm not saying all of it, but their base was that John Meadows counted his warm-up sets.
Yeah.
But the actual working sets, it was like 2, 1.
Yeah.
You know, so I do think you're right. All kidding aside, Ron, I think that it's what it means to an individual. Because I just told that to a guy over the weekend. He's like, well, how many working sets do you do when you do deads? And I go, 2. He goes, you do 2 sets? I said, yes. That's it. I'm like, well, it takes 7 to get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I touch the bar 5-6 times before I do those 2 sets. So if you want to count the 135 for 10, the 225 for 8, well, then I guess I did 7 sets for deads today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it worries me a little when it worries me to think how this statement could be interpreted. Because I do feel like for some people it could be like, well, that means I shouldn't train that hard, you know?
Yeah, if you can do 10, stop at 7.
Yeah.
No.
Right. No, maybe Haney kind of tried to keep, like, you know how there's a lot of research about, you know, keeping 1 rep in reserve because then you can do more total sets with that weight.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's sort of, maybe he was like kind of a go to the, like, maybe he's kissing failure and not quite hitting failure on a lot of his sets. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways to train hard though. Like maybe he's doing a lot more sets. I remember reading he was like more of a volume guy. So yeah.
It's all what you know, on how you look at it too, because I know people say, well, Jay doesn't train heavy. He does you know, he's a high volume guy. I'm like, I've seen Jay incline 455.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Jay bent road 4 or 5 all the time. He's bent road 4 plates all the time.
Yeah.
He did a lot of volume and a lot of weight. And I guess another thing I would say too is like, well, maybe that works really well for some people. I don't know if that high volume with high weight worked for everybody that tried it, you know, in the early 2000s. It did work really good for some people, but you know, what if your ability to recover from that isn't as good as Jay's, you know?
Yeah, I think that's where like the genetic component comes in, you know, the old 4 exercises, 4 sets of 8 to 10.
Yeah.
You know, adding weight on every set, you know.
I think you got to know yourself too, though, right? Because I have a short attention span. I can't do 24 sets and train. I'm bored. I want to leave.
Well, there's that. That's an element too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm dead serious. It's like, I don't want to do this exercise for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I just, you know, because you know how it is. Like, say you're doing, you know, back, like pull down movements for back. Your first movement, you got warm ups, this and that. Your second movement, there's not really a warm up.
Right.
All right, go.
Right.
All right, go. Imagine having to do. I don't want to do that 4 times. It just it doesn't work for me mentally. I'm like,
Yeah.
Start looking around. I see something shiny. It's no good.
No, hey, you know, that's how it works. There's that whole thing about what's going to keep the guy going hard. You know, he's got to enjoy the process, and there's different ways to get there. You know, obviously your genetics might dictate which way's the best way to get there, and then you got to stumble on it and all that stuff. But yeah, you know. So
what else?
Haney's awesome though. I still remember how angry I was. I was like really upset. I can't remember what year it was, but they gave Lee Haney like a Lifetime Achievement Award, and he didn't get a standing ovation. And I was like super upset when they called him out, and the crowd didn't stand up. I was like,
no kidding.
There was like a bunch of us for standing, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know? It was just,
think about what you have to do to piss off a Canadian.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Disrespect Lee Haney.
Exactly.
Don't disrespect Lee Haney.
Hey, speaking of Jay, we got a question here with Jay mentioned. Hey guys, another great episode question from my side. Jay Cutler had and still has the longest lines during expos when Rich Piana was drawing a lot of attention towards the sport, especially from what I've heard during expos with an enormous amount of people waiting to meet him. Do you see anybody nowadays getting close to that where literally everybody wants to meet that one person? Maybe guys from Fuad's podcast, Nick Walker. Would be interesting to hear your thoughts. All the best, Lucas.
Well, from what I saw at the LA Fit, which was a small expo, Rob and Dana Lynn Bailey, it was crazy.
They're still killing it.
They were only there for like 3 hours on one day,
Yeah.
And maybe that concentrated their line because their fans were like, they're only there for 3 hours, right? But when they were there, like their lineup was just stupid. It like went fucking way past the bathroom and around back behind the powerlifting. It was just crazy. And I mean, I took a piss like every hour the whole weekend. And every time I went, I would look and there was this dude wearing a Black Sabbath t-shirt and he was still in line. Like he moved like, I remember thinking, where's the Black Sabbath t-shirt? Because I was going to see, I was like, when I go back to the bathroom, I'm going to see if that guy moved.
Yeah.
And I went back like an hour later and he was like moved quite a bit, but he wasn't at the front yet. I was like, holy
He wasn't
fuck.
gone yet.
Holy
Yeah.
crap.
And then I went again and he still wasn't at the front. He was like almost there. And I was like, holy shit. And then Jay was there for half of Sunday. And just like he said, his line was, it was the craziest line for sure of the whole expo. But I mean, that was a pretty small expo. But to answer the question, I don't see anyone with a line like Jay right now at like, you know, the expos. We'll have to see how the rest of the year goes. It'll be interesting to go to England, see what their expos like at the Arnold in September.
Yeah.
But Jay's still the king of the lineup. I don't know. Do you agree, Dusty, as far as we can tell?
Well, yes, for sure. That's the quick answer. But what I was also going to say is Jay and Rob and Dana are the only ones with staying power.
Huh.
Because remember when Kai was at his peak and was winning and was like right there and could win the Olympia, he had a line like that always.
Yeah. I stood in that one time.
Kai can walk through an expo now. He still is very popular, don't get me wrong, but it's not like it used to be. It's definitely not like Rob and Jay and Dana. Like those people have that. So I feel like that's what really separates, because I imagine that there's a lot of guys coming up and, you know, and girls that are very popular that'll have a big weight. But I find it really powerful that people who aren't the technical influencers that can still hang like that, because that's what it is now. Like if you dropped an influencer, I think Bradley Martin would probably have a bigger draw than Nick Walker at an expo. Because
yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Like so many people know them across so many things. I think one that could hang, if I was going to name somebody I was going to guess that could hang, it would be Bumstead. He would have a line like that.
Yeah.
You know? And sure. I think that he also will have staying power because he gets it. Like I watch some of the decisions he makes as a businessman, and I'm like, he's going to be like, Jay, he can do this as long as he wants. He can retire, keep coming back, keep patting his pockets. Fans will love him. Yeah, he's on that level, in my opinion.
Did he switch coaches?
No, I heard something about he hired Haney to help him with some mental stuff, but I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. And that's why I ask instead of say it as a statement. Like, you know what I mean?
Coaching, like not just diet and stuff.
Like, one of my clients messaged me last night and was like, "Dude, did you hear about Bumstead?" And I was like, "What?" And
I think like, Ian's still doing his diet and everything. So
yeah,
it'd be insanity to change that.
Yeah. Why change a formula that's working? You know?
Yeah. I would say, you know what else too? Like, did you see what Fuad and the guys did? They had like a meetup.
Yeah, that was very cool.
I don't know where were they? I didn't know where they were. Was it in Florida or Texas or wherever the fuck they were? But they had like had like a meetup. Sorry?
I think it was Texas.
Was it?
Anyways, they all had like a meetup and like a fan meet and greet and stuff, and it looked like it went really well.
That's cool.
And when you do stuff like that, it maybe negates the need to like do it at an expo. You know what I mean? You're getting out and engaging your fans directly, and it's your exact target market because everyone's just coming to see you. So it's like, it's not like you're getting any strays. It's just concentrated fucking 1%ers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's a great idea. Like I thought that was a great idea what Fuad did. It's hard to get everyone together like that though, but
he brought all the guys too, which was wild. You know, I mean, it's like his whole team basically.
That's fun.
Yeah. And it's funny. I think Guy's the only one who's not with Hostile.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's like they're all doing the group photo and they're all wearing Hostile except Guy. It's funny.
Well, he was the only one that was angry at that moment as well. Oh wait, no, Fuad too. Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm going to the UK in like 2 weeks, guys. There's an event, Fit Expo, I guess, is Fit Expo. That's how you say it. Fit Expo. There we go. And yeah, a little tricky there. But it's going to be in Liverpool. And Dave Crossland and I are going to do a live podcast there on Sunday morning. So it's going to be cool, man. Like, Dorian's going to be there training a bunch of guys. Josh Maley, Sasan is going to be there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited to meet all those guys and meet some of our listeners too. So I doubt we'll get like the Jay Cutler line. You know what I'm saying? But
I think you might. I think you might.
You never know. It's a UK.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I've never been there before. You guys have both been there before, right? I mean, you multiple times.
Liverpool. I haven't been to
I've been everywhere, yeah.
Yeah.
I did like a tour there one year, so it was a bunch of England and then Wales for a couple stops, and it was cool. Yeah, but you know what you need to make sure you do if you're a true bodybuilder, and this has nothing to do with bodybuilding, you got to go eat some like real Indian food.
Indian food,
dude.
Yeah, England's huge for it.
Oh,
really?
Dude.
Huh.
Oh, yeah. Game changer. Okay. And I'm not. Like, I would never eat that here because as far as I know, there's nowhere I've ever heard of it's even close. I got ballsy after a trip once. I was like, oh, I'm going to look up a place in Scottsdale.
Not as good, huh?
Not the same.
Okay.
It was sad. But yeah, trust me on this one. They got like a bread thing that they bring out and like hangs like my fucking microphone here. Just tear pieces off of it. You want hanging bread. Yeah. For sure.
I need that.
The hanging bread. The bread that hangs.
Dusty said to get the bread that hangs.
You bring the bread that hangs. Remember what else Liverpool gave us? Hey, my favorite Spice Girl, Sporty Spice.
I thought you were going to say the Beatles.
Yeah, well, they gave us the Beatles too. You know,
but Sporty Spice, yeah,
but Sporty Spice.
Who? The Beatles? What? Sporty Spice.
Yeah. All right, I got another one.
Here's my favorite.
What are your guys' feelings on wrist wraps? I doubt I'm pushing enough weight to actually need them, but I feel more secure when I have them on. Plus, they look cool.
That's the important part right there. I was going to ask what color they were because it matters.
Cool. Does it? What's the color? What's the right color?
Black and red, always.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they're cool enough that Danny Hester wore one of them to the fucking dinner the other night when we were in L.A.
You're kidding me.
Swear to God.
Just one?
Am I wrong, Ron?
Well, it wasn't a traditional wrist wrap. It looked more like a handkerchief. It looked more like a bandana tied around his wrist.
No, he had a wrist wrap also.
What?
I swear, I think it strips down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that I saw.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, and Danny was just using it to hold a fork. So
yeah,
fuck yeah, dude, you need it.
Cool. I do agree. They look cool. So I wore wrist wraps. I would always make sure I didn't put them on. Like I would put them on loose and I would do like my warm-up sets and I would get up to like the 120s without them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I would wrap them for like the 150s.
Yeah.
Up, you know? And then I would maybe wear them on my second exercise. And then I would they'd just be loose dangling on my wrist for the rest of the workout after the first two big movements. Because I always felt like I didn't want to like make my wrist weak. I sort of felt the same as knee wraps. Guys that wrap their knees all the time, they wind up having a hard time training without knee wraps, and I didn't want to be like that. But now I don't wear wrist wraps anymore because I don't think I train heavy enough to justify them. And I want to, I want to make sure I stay, strong and I don't mask any pain or anything like that. So I try to go that route now,
What do you think, Scott? You haven't answered a question yet.
Yeah, come on, Scott.
I'll say
you're slacking.
Yeah, depends on what I'm doing, but dumbbell presses, I like them for that. Like
that
you're saying,
that would be
Ron.
the number one thing. My favorite thing would be heavy dumbbell presses. That's
and like you're saying, top set. I'll have them on, but they're not tight, and then I tighten them up right before the set. And if I take too long, then I notice my fingers are starting to go numb and tingling. So that gives me motivation to get under the dumbbells faster.
Right.
And then, I'll take them off because I just keep them, home gym. I'll just toss them over where I keep them, But I would leave them on loose otherwise because that is an article you can easily lose at the gym. And you got to be careful with those items you can lose.
I never wore them on arm day. Not
No.
like I see guys wearing wrist wraps on arm day. I never wore them on arm day.
I was
like, you're not lifting heavy enough on arm day.
I'd crank wraps down on my knees.
Unless you're dusty and you're doing fucking 2-plate skull crushers, and then you can wrap your wrist.
I'm going to wrap all the way up my arm.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap my whole elbow.
Yeah.
Wrap my shoulder.
Knees, either like I went to knee sleeves, but before that I'd wrap the knees real tight. And if they hurt a little bit, you know, start getting like that sharp pain, cartilage is tearing, then I just wrap it harder, you know. It was the dumbest thing I could have done. And now I don't do any of that. Now for knees, I'll use a very thin sleeve. It doesn't even have there's no resistance to it. It's just enough to keep my knee a little bit warm.
Right.
That's it. I don't want to, but you know what? I'm not lifting heavy right now, Ron, and I still will use the wraps on my heavy dumbbell presses. Whatever the heaviest set I can do, I will use it for that. But then I back it on down, you know.
Yeah, there you go. Dusty, same thing.
Just for fashion. I'm just trying to be cool.
Yeah,
just for fashion. Well, you have your little ritual.
Yeah, that's part of it. I was waiting.
Every working set, he takes them off.
Yep.
And then once they're off, he just re-puts them back on again, and then does his next set. And then he
for like rest pauses.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Like even a rest pause, you only got 30 seconds, right?
Real
but
quick.
Dusty buys about 40 seconds because he fucks with
42.
the wrist wrap. He goes all the way off and then all the way back on for each one.
I leave the thumb part on though, Scott. You know the part that goes on your thumb.
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually like come off, but it's absolutely
like
full slack.
And then back. Yeah, almost, and then right back on. You think he's going one way, he reverses it. Yeah, that's his little thing.
There's like a drama to that, though. You know, you step away.
It's great for filming.
Yeah, you step away from the equipment, right? And you redo them, and then you step back in. You know.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit,
video edited.
You remember? Do you remember
he's
Over the
lift
Top?
A lot.
Yeah, I was flipping the switch.
Flipping the switch.
Yeah, he's about to lift a lot. That's what I would be thinking if I watched that. All right, what else do we have here? There's our wrist wrap question. Here's one about
simple question. Turned it into
rambled for 72 minutes.
Yeah. Paul asks, he says, Ron and Dusty, can you get Mutant to start making gear in the roadside lemonade flavor that's available in the BCAA 9.7 product? Because as far as I know, BCAAs are not really effective, true or false. So what is he saying? There's like two things here. Is he saying that roadside lemonade is his favorite flavor and he wants that in another product?
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly
what he's saying.
And also he doesn't like BCAAs, but is that a good flavor?
It's a great flavor. I don't know why they don't make it in the other flavor.
It's like a lemon drop, like actually like a lemon drop. It's very delicious.
It's like you bought roadside lemonade off a child.
Yeah,
like it's the perfect flavor. It tastes like you're helping a kid start a business.
Minus them putting
really
their fingers in it.
It tastes.
I think
like
mom typically makes it. So.
It tastes like the purest form of capitalism.
Well, you're getting them started early, you know. I think that's key.
Yeah. Oh, kids making money being entrepreneurs. This tastes so fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a great flavor.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
Oh, I agree. She's got a good point. I like Rocket Pop.
I agree, but I
myself with
can't
the
help
gear,
it.
though.
Yeah, Rocket Pop's good.
Kevin's got one for us. Kevin 21. What's your opinion on combining high intensity methods into volume training? This is what I talked about last week, I think. For example, working up to a heavy top set slowly and conservatively with reps to ensure maximum strength and endurance, and then immediately after doing 2 higher rep drop sets, for example. Okay, so going heavy and then immediately going to drop set.
So he means, instead of doing 1 working set, you're doing 1 working triple drop is what I would call it.
Yeah.
I use the term triple drop because there's 3 different weights being used.
Not because there's 3 drops.
Yeah, it's not 3 drops. It's actually a double drop, but I say triple just because there's 3 different weights being used. So he's just saying turn all your work sets into drop sets is what I think he's talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine. So I've actually done that. Like I've done a strip set on leg press and then moved to hack and done a strip set on hack and then moved to extension and done a strip set on extension. And I mean, it's fucking brutal and your pump's insane. I don't know if you should do it every week or you'll get like too hammered. Maybe you'll make some great gains. I don't know. I mean, it just sounds like you're just like having fun by making up an extra hard way to train, which, hey,
I can back that.
I can back that. I admire the hustle.
But I got a question for you guys. Would you consider that to be higher volume? Because you're still just pushing that same set further.
Yeah, it is higher volume because volume is weight times reps.
Okay,
that's your volume.
So technically,
times reps. So technically, you're lifting more volume in that same amount of time. The workout's only going to be a few minutes longer. Yeah. So you just have to it's weight. What is volume again? Weight times reps. But then you factor in how many minutes your workout was in. So if one workout's longer than the other, then you know what I mean, changes it.
Yeah, divided by the.
I asked because I always feel like volume is like more sets. I feel like to me that's like technically more volume in that set, but it's just one more it's like an intensifier is what I would consider that.
Yeah. But the math formula, like the people that are math purists, it is weight times reps. So you would have to add it all up.
Okay. What do you think, Dusty?
I think it'd be a lot. I also, and this is purely opinion, but I find for myself and for most of my clients, when your workouts are getting really hard, you're getting close to a show or something like that, you ever had somebody you're training with, they're getting ready to do a set and they'll look at you real quick and go, how many more sets do we have? That's them deciding what they're putting into this set.
Yeah.
And I do think there's something to be said about knowing, like, if you're going to do, like he said, 6 to 8 reps, you get to that 8th rep and it's tough, but you might have a 9th one in you. If that's your only set, you go for that 9th rep every time if you're wired correctly. I think a lot of people don't go for that 9th rep because they got 2 drops coming. So I do think it alters the intensity of the high intensity kind of training. But like Ron said, I think sometimes it's good to have fun. I mean, I love training all the time, but there's many times I go in the gym and I'm like, I just want to fuck myself up today. Yeah. And I'll do something like that. You know, I mean, today I went to the gym and I made my, I decided the thing I haven't really put out there, but I want to feel really strong again. Before deciding what I want to do as far as activity and bodybuilding and that stuff. So I decided, like, all right, my shoulder's starting to get pretty healthy. I want to just get strong again. And pressing has been an issue. It's been something that's been bothering me. It's getting better. So today, without any thought about it, all I did was press for shoulders. I did 4 different pressing movements and just said, oh, this will be fun. And that's what I did. Like, so I think sometimes, like, is that part of some master plan? No. The only thing I did do was make sure I was thinking about what numbers I wanted to hit on each thing. So I think the idea is good, but like Ron said, I wouldn't do that every time. It's a lot to beat your body down with. So I don't think it's optimal. Kind of becomes why.
All right. Rob Taylor's got one for us. He says, quick question for the next show. Is vascularity an indicator of leanness? He says, been on my cut for at least 3 weeks and my veins are like snakes.
And they're
yeah, but it's all relative to you and your, how vascular are you anyways? Like some people diet down and they're really vascular. Other people diet down and they're not really as vascular. So there's a genetic set point, but everyone who gets leaner will get more vascular.
Right.
So
I think the more times you do it, right?
Yeah. If you're getting more vascular and you're dieting, then you're definitely getting leaner.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what happens. So yeah, it is an indicator. Like if I see someone and they're in a sleeveless shirt and their delts and arms have veins all over them, then it is an indicator that they're probably leaner than most average people. The rest of their body's probably not fat. Like, or if you see someone and their calves are shredded, there's the odd fat guy out there with lean calves. We've all seen one of them. They have a big pot belly and then they've got like freaky calves, but that's super rare. So for the most part, if someone's legs are lean, especially if their thighs are lean, then they're probably lean,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good sign. Keep it up.
You look at guys like Jay Cutler, he was never very vascular, you know?
You're not like crazy. I mean, if you saw him in the gym training, he'd fucking veins all over his delts and arms, and
but not like
you see him up close, and
not like Jose.
Yeah, Jose, great example. Like it's just who we are.
Frank McGrath's forearms,
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to another podcast here at Think Big Bodybuilding Media. If we've provided value to you today, then please consider contributing to our show. You can help support the show through Patreon. Every $5 helps to pay for the software and the hardware and everything else that goes into making a podcast. You can also contribute by using our code at True Nutrition. True Nutrition has been our title sponsor for several years now. I'm super grateful for them. And I've believed in True Nutrition supplements long before they sponsored our programming. You could use our code THINK for health supplements and performance supplements. Feel free to hit me up if you have any questions. And if you're in Canada, check out supplementsource.ca. They have free shipping over $99, huge discounts on overstocked, short-dated, and label-changed products. Plus, they have all your normal supplements too. Thank you guys for listening to the commercial. I hope you're having a great day and that your bodybuilding is going well. Let's get back to the show.
Oh, I got to make sure I get this one on because I guess he commented a few times and I've missed it. Taylor asks, he says, okay, I've got one, Scott, the same one from before. So, because he asked it
Not
before.
the same one. Not the same one.
Oh, not the same one. I try to read these fast and add inflection, and then I don't always catch all the words, and I miss important words like not. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Anyways, he says, what's the most you guys have spent on all your PEDs, diuretics, peptides, you name it, on a show prep, money-wise? Feel free to go into as much detail as you're comfortable with, but I am curious. I remember Rich Piana saying he spent like 15 big ones. Thanks. That's a lot of money. What was he fucking running for 15 grand? I mean,
he was running game on the fans so that they would listen to his fucking YouTube. I'm mad at it. I don't hate the player. It's the game, but fuck.
Well, there's Pharma GH in that number too. So if you look at
it's like 14.5 right there.
90s, 90s Pharma GH prices, maybe 10 or 12 of it was that. But to be honest, like you'd be super. There's just nothing exciting in my past in that regard. I'm
trying to do math over here.
I was always I got a bit of farm kid in me. I kept my costs down. Yeah. I only used Pharma GH like a couple times in my whole life.
Yeah.
I did most of my shows without any.
Do you feel like it made a difference, Pharma?
I don't know. You sure feel good while you're on it. That's a thing. Like, you're on, how good are your pumps and how good do you feel versus what does it actually do for your physique at the very end, yield it out. Like on stage, how much better are you?
Did you win your pro card with it?
No, I wasn't using Pharma GH the year I won my pro card.
Yeah, there's that thing, guys.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
I was a little smaller that year. I used a whole bunch of generic GH, and I thought it was like fairly good generic GH, but I didn't use Pharma. So that's funny. I didn't spend much. My food bill's way higher. Like one time years ago, like I wasn't even done competing and I did like a rough calculation, like just estimated. And I was like, oh, I've spent like $250,000 on food.
Yeah.
Me too. Last year. I eat out a lot.
Like in 25 years, I spent like lots of money on food. Like I remember the joke was one of my friends said like, oh, I could look like you in 10 years. And I said, well, are you willing to spend $200,000 on food? And he was like, oh, fuck that. It's like, there you go.
That's funny. I think if I was going to guess,
like a 250,000 egg whites. I don't know what my math out. It was something.
Yeah, could you imagine doing that?
Some crazy.
How many ounces
of
chicken have you eaten? How many ounces of chicken has Ron eaten since he started bodybuilding?
Yeah,
there was some. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was. I remember just looking at the numbers and thinking it was just what. I made that much money. Never mind, spent it.
Yeah,
I didn't even know I made that much money. I was like, oh my God. In like 20 years, I spent that on food. Yeah.
There was this TV show that we just watched last night on Vice. It was on YouTube, and they were following ravers that were middle-aged and aging, guys that were like 40s, 50s, 60s plus that were still raving. And they took 3 of them into the studio.
Did they go back to raving, or are they still raving?
Still raving.
Well, that's a different animal.
And they calculated how much drugs they had used, and then they didn't take like actual drugs, but they took like white powder and put it on a table to show them how much drug. There was this dude who's like very well known, I guess, in the UK as being this like party guy, 50s, big belly. He wears like all sorts of funny outfits. He's always the life of the party. 9 kilos of cocaine in his lifetime to himself. 9 fucking kilos. I mean,
now
there were these.
Multiply that by 16,000.
How does that look? How does that look on a table?
It was like a legit. It was a legit
it's like a Scarface mountain.
Oh, bigger. Yeah. Yeah, it was like a
Scarface mountain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You imagine he's still alive. And did they interview him?
Yeah, they interviewed him, and he had some like heart stuff going on, and he's probably better off not doing. They had like just sheets of LSD just stacked up. This guy's like, I took 956 tabs of LSD in his life, and just mountains, bales of weed.
Who was the most fucked up? Like, was any of them really obviously like sketched straight out?
There was one guy who didn't make it to the studio. He didn't come to the studio, and he had what equated to like a mountain of meth and a mountain, like literally like a legit bale of weed. Real nice stack of mushrooms too over to the side. Just giant pile of mushrooms.
Bale.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
A bale of weed.
Yeah.
You have things to
I
shoot
probably
for
know
around.
a few of those guys too. Oh God. That's
I'd like to do that with you guys. Bring you in the studio, and we'll like pile up as many chicken as you've eaten. You know,
Be obscene.
Yeah, I did do the math on the egg whites once. I remember the number had a lot of zeros. Like how many egg whites? I was estimating.
Dusty, you got your math up for us yet?
I started to, and then I just decided to guesstimate because I just went with the growth, and I started just trying to figure out per bottle.
Yeah.
But I think for 16 weeks of prep and running growth the entire time, I might have been looking at like $3,600
Okay.
for a prep. Yeah, I don't know if people are getting robbed. What's this?
So that's about how many egg whites I ate during my competitive years.
Do you know what that would cost you today if you lived in the United States? $10 million.
So I ate about 150,000 egg whites.
It's a lot of egg whites.
You might get a better deal since you fall off of your bike also.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so it's not, I mean, the 15,000, it's funny because I tried to guess really high.
Yeah.
And I mean, Ron really did nail it. Drugs are not that expensive. Food really is.
Yeah.
Like the most expensive thing I ever did was in 2011 when I was doing 16 ounces of cooked salmon a day. And I don't like farm salmon. So
you spent like
fresh
$50
salmon.
a day on salmon, or what was it? Like,
Yeah.
How much?
I mean, literally, it was
pound of
insane.
salmon?
And I remember I got really pissed, Ron, because I went to
good
Miami.
salmon.
I went to Miami a week early, right? And I go to buy food from Publix. So I go to buy the same salmon, and the price was higher. I'm like, this fucking fish was swimming in that goddamn ocean. You mean to tell me it's cheaper to have him take a flight to Scottsdale before he comes to my house?
Probably. Well, the one you're
so
getting
aggravating.
in Scottsdale, the one you're getting in Scottsdale probably comes from Vancouver, and the one you're getting in Miami probably comes from.
Well, no, it's because it's
Vancouver.
Atlantic salmon. I
Oh,
mean,
it's
maybe
Atlantic
they're
salmon,
lying
okay.
to me, but
Maybe they
in
are.
my mind, but yeah, that I remember, and I'm not someone who really like, and I don't mean this as bad as it's going to sound, but like when you're in prep,
Yeah.
you buy what you need to eat. I don't really pay attention to what it costs. I'm like,
Yeah.
like I realized I'm like, fuck, that was expensive. Okay, but the salmon, I was like, damn. This is fucking brutal because you had to cook like 22 ounces to have a cooked 16 ounces.
We went to my aunt's for dinner the other night, and my uncle barbecued fillets. Beautiful,
Good man.
10-ounce fillets. Like they were just. I walked in and I saw them sitting on a plate ready to go on the barbecue, and I was like, oh, those are the like most amazing. I knew instantly they were fillets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And so that we pass the plate around, and I grab a nice big like 10-ounce fillet, and my whole dinner. It's beautiful. My aunt and uncle did a great job, and I eat my 10-ounce fillet and my 2 baked potatoes because they were so good. And I'm like, because I don't eat that much at one serving anymore. You know what I mean? Like I eat a meal and I'm like, good. But I was like, we'd been packing all day, so I was really hungry. And I was like, fuck, there's one more steak sitting there. And I go to my uncle, I go, hey, you want to split that steak? He goes, no, you have it. And I'm like, I can't eat another 10-ounce steak. Like, and I was like, maybe I can. I fucking ate it.
Don't limit yourself.
I ate 20 ounces of amazing filet in one sitting.
Nice.
I haven't eaten 2 10-ounce steaks. They might have been bigger than 10 ounces. They were fucking thick. I haven't eaten 2 steaks in one sitting in so long. Like old 300-pound me might have done it. But
yeah,
they were so delicious. I just went fucking crazy on dinner. So yeah, that was what? How much? And now today's prices, how much was that? How much were those 2 steaks?
So mine are the ones I get are $40 a pound.
Right. Like, so I ate like $50 for the steak. Yeah. $60 for the steak. It's funny.
That's a grip, and it's worth every penny.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
And then the best part was that my aunt was like really happy I ate it. You know, when they're happy you eat.
Yeah.
They're proud of you. Absolutely.
Proud of you. She was like, oh, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. You know,
your aunt is, you know, when you go to like an older, like your aunt, you know, or grandma or someone's house, and they're like forcing you to eat, but you're in the off season. So you're like,
I haven't had that for a while. No one forces me to eat anymore, Dusty.
Well, look at you. You're fucking walking around peeled. I might have told you this, Scott, but I'm telling it again just because it's funny to me. So Ron, we go to LA and he's like feeling thin. Like I could see it in his face, like when we're training. Yeah. So I decided to film him.
Okay.
Just to show him the fucking phone. Because he has no idea. It's like reverse bodybuilding. He has no idea that he's peeled out of his mind.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't do any tricky bullshit, Ron. I stood here and filmed and then showed it to you immediately. I'm like, that's just what you look like. Just because you're not 320 pounds anymore. Like it was actually, and I was shocked. I didn't
realize how lean I was in LA.
But also when you're that lean, it like you don't look small. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It was just funny. Because his mind, it literally, I think, and I get it. Like if I was at that show or whatever, and then I'm like, and you do realize that 3 people have randomly walked over him and be like, man, you look good. Rob Bailey did it first.
Yeah.
Like we were training, he just walked right over. He's like, God, dude, you look fucking good. And I'm like, they don't just randomly compliment. They know you. They don't have to.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they're just happy. Rob told me he was really happy for me. He goes, you look like you're having a blast.
That's cool.
Look at your Instagram. You look like you're having a blast. And I was like, thanks, man. You know?
Yeah.
But that's, you know what? That's another example, off topic. You know, they say, you know, Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan Peterson.
Love him.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Be careful who you tell your good news to, you know? Because
for sure.
You should only tell it to people that are going to be happy for you, and be careful who you tell your bad news to, because some of the people you tell your bad news to are actually celebrating it, you know?
Right.
Good point.
And so anyways, my whole point is Rob Bailey is one of the people who is, every single time I see him, he asks how I'm doing and wants to know what I'm doing. And he's like happy to hear good news. He's like one of those people. So that's why he's a good shit. And, you know, I keep him, he's on my list.
That's
cool. What I mean?
For sure.
He's one of those people, him and Dana both.
Yep. I would say, just to circle back to that question before we moved on, if you remove the peptides, would it be fair to say that a competitive bodybuilder, even if they're pushing gear, could easily stay under $1,000 on a contest prep for, you know, just gear alone? Like that's not going to be hard to stay under $1,000.
Yeah, you should be able to. I mean, it obviously depends on what.
I mean, how good of a deal.
Pay, but yeah.
First of all, people just take entirely too much shit. It's just complete nonsense. Like, I'm trying not to rant, but like this one guy doing his very first show, it's like a novice show, and he's telling me, he's like, yeah, you know, I'm just worried because I haven't been able to find Proviron and I haven't been able to find Halo test, and I haven't been able to find this, and I haven't been able to find that. And I'm like, what do you need all that shit for?
Yeah.
What are you using? And he goes, well, I'm just taking a bit of test and a bit of Tren and a bit of Anavar. I'm like, you don't need anything else.
No, you're good.
Like, you're good. Like, just get ripped. Just train and diet. Like, you're on enough shit. You're fine. You look great. Like, these people think they need.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do a show without 3 weeks of Halo. I'm
Right.
like, yeah, you can.
Remember,
I've seen a million people do it.
We've talked about this, and I know you know the individual in this, Ron, but Chris was working with a guy, and after a while, he wasn't really happy with what was happening.
Yes.
So he said, "Are you sure your shit is real,
Frank?"
And he was like, "You know what? I don't know." And he goes, "Do you have anything that you know is real?" And he said, "Yes." And he goes, "Okay, take that." Didn't even ask what it was.
He was prope. He had veterinarian prope that he knew was real. And he had some pharmacy Anavar that he knew was real. And he wasn't using either item.
Yeah. So he switched them.
Just take those.
There you go.
And that was what they prepped on for the rest of the way. And he did say, he told me, I'm sure he told you too, drastic change in a couple weeks.
Drastic. Like mind bending. And the guy won his pro card.
So realistically, to push it even further, we can say under $500. You can do a really good prep, a lot of everything you could possibly want to take, and really under 500. I said 1,000 initially, but I'd say under 500, not a problem.
Depending on the level you're at.
All I can say this for 100% certainty.
Yeah.
I won the 99 Albertas. I was 244 pounds with strided glutes, and I took 500 milligrams of test a week and a bottle of Clen.
There you go. You can do the math, guys.
And then 7 weeks out, I remember it was 7 weeks out, I went to 750 test, and I took 1 Nolvadex a day.
No Arimidex, huh?
No Arimidex back then. I didn't even have it.
Huh.
You know what's even funny about this is the reason that he went to 750 a day then was because that's how much he had to get to the show. I know that without asking.
That's the math. That's the math.
Yeah. You knew you could get that
I
all
can
the way
bump
in.
it to that and still make it.
Yeah, because a friend of mine gave me 7 more amps of Sustanon that he wasn't going to use.
Okay. Yeah.
See?
And I was like,
knew it.
Right?
Adam
and
in.
The bottle of Clen was a donation too. A buddy of mine gave me a pump. 1 pump of Clen. He gave me a pump. He's like, fucking go smash this. And I was like, thanks, dude. Yeah. It was like fucking poverty prep. Full-time college, spending like so much on chicken breast, living on my visa, poverty prep. I had nothing else. I had a handful of Nolvadex tabs, some Sustanon amps, bottle of Clen. That was it. And then I remember a buddy of mine had like a bottle with some Halo tabs that were rattling around in it.
Yeah.
And I took 20 megs of Halo for 9 days.
Yeah.
Because that was how much.
Because you had 9 days.
18.
You had 18. Yeah, I remember all of that. Like I vividly remember it all.
Yeah.
So that was the first prep. Like, and I was the best I'd ever been at that point. I was best shape I'd ever been in, leanest I'd ever been in, most shredded I'd ever been, won the show. And poverty prep. But just
that's
these
not
people
uncommon.
think they need all these drugs, all this fucking shit.
Yeah.
There's so much mental masturbation though. This it's funny, but I had this literally at the airport yesterday. I had a conversation with Jose about this, and we talked about the obsession with when to take everything. And it was funny because obviously I know Jose very well, but he goes, "You take your growth hormone when you won't forget to take it.
Yeah,
that's when you take it." And I was like, "Exactly." Like,
and also,
it's not that complicated.
I really tried to not be late for my shot this week, and I was a day late again.
Dude, thank God you're not taking this shit as some sort of a, birth control.
Yeah. Well, if I accidentally get knocked up.
You can now. I heard about that. Anyways.
All right. We got a couple more here. Josh has one for us. He says, I just did a show and was what I thought the leanest I've been. The issue I ran into was even after drying, keeping 1.5 gallons all the way to Friday, then cut the water off 12 hours out of the show, which had me peeing a lot every hour. but before hitting stage, I started sweating like I was playing basketball, which led me to being a mess on stage, which I'm sure led to my 3rd place finish. My question is, have you guys ever dealt with sweating issues? What causes this, and suggestions on how to dry out with no sweat? You guys are the fucking best. I love the podcast. Love the content.
You shouldn't pull your water.
Yeah.
You overheated because you pulled your water out. And never pull it all the way out.
I think some guys, there's a lot of reasons why you can start sweating on stage. Sometimes it's nerves. Sometimes people get really pumped up and anxious, and they pump up and they're pumping and they're jumping around backstage and they're anxious and their heart rate's like 150. And then they literally get like an adrenaline dump on stage, and they can get fucked up blood sugar and all that stuff. But all of that stuff is way worse and more likely to happen, all the blood sugar issues and stuff, if you cut your water. When you cut water, you risk messing up your electrolytes. And then I don't know if you took diuretics, but sometimes the timing's just brutal. You just like happen to get, you do that big pump up and stuff, and then you get a blood sugar problem or something. And that's what causes all the massive sweating and all that shit. And it just goes to shit. And it all starts with being a little over dehydrated. I think you want to avoid being overly dehydrated. I think it causes a lot of problems and messing with your electrolytes too much.
Yeah. I just don't think you ever need to pull all the way out, because it's cooling to drink, to bring fluid in, and you're absolutely right with what you brought to the table. But anytime I hear someone said they pulled their water.
Yeah. Also, how much did they pull with diuretics too? Because now you're super fucked up, right?
Yeah. And what directions did you take? I mean, did you use something that's going to mess with aldosterone levels? I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. I try my best to keep things very simple when you talk about them, but some things aren't that simple.
Yeah.
So
I got to be right back.
Those other things. So I hope that's his gun being delivered instead of him picking it up, and he's going to bring it in. But he's in Canada, so that's not happening.
I don't think that's happening. I don't think you can do that in the U.S. either. They don't just deliver guns to your house. At least not legally.
It depends, but sometimes when there's like a serial number that's filed off, they'll bring that bitch right over.
Yeah, right to your house. Yeah, they will.
Here you go. But you can't take that into school zones because it's against the law.
Correct. Do you remember, Dusty, maybe 15 years ago, like everybody pulled every ounce of water out, like always? It was just like that was just the thing. Like you just dropped it all by the end.
I remember, but fortunately, I was around people that knew better.
Yeah.
The other thing that I always thought was really funny was when guys would be pulling their water while carbing up.
Oh, yeah.
What's going to move the carbs?
Yeah.
I mean, I really have that's one area that I will say even I've changed. Like I drink a lot more. Like by the end of my career, it was, I shouldn't say the career, but when Chris and I were working together, I really realized the importance of water. Okay. We were drinking so much. So then cutting back was like, okay, have 12 ounces with each meal.
Yeah, and it's still less, right?
And it's drastically less than you were doing, but it's a lot, you know?
Yeah.
Do we have another one?
We got one more. One
more for this episode in the green shirt.
And it is about, here it is, running DECA only. David, what are you thinking? Question for the next podcast. Thinking about running a DECA only cycle just as a science experiment. Would 300 a week be beneficial, or should I just run it with test?
Well, I don't know why you'd want to just take DECA as a science experiment. But, hey, I understand the desire to try something. I would never do it because I can't take DECA. So I just would never do it. I would never consider it. And now after living life on, like, TRT for a long time, I can just tell you, like, I don't know how it gets any better than this. Like, why not just do this? This is awesome. This is fucking phenomenal. I don't think it gets better. Yeah, even if you're late, it doesn't even matter. I just feel great all the time. Like it doesn't.
The question
even
mark
matter.
Is how much you were taking, because I know that's an issue a lot of people run into. I think it got popular in hindsight, I'll say I think I took too much test my entire career.
Huh.
I think I could have gotten away with 500. Now I went higher, and to the point of like I went to 1200 once and realized it wasn't doing shit, so I stopped because I'm cheap. But I really do think that the bump between 500 and even 750, I don't know how much it mattered. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I talked to Jordan about this, and he actually likes doing things like no test because he finds he can eat more. You know, but again, I've never discussed with him how much test he was taking. So if you asked me, like just what Ron just said, if you're taking 200 milligrams of test, I think that 300 milligrams of Deca with that would be better than by itself. He's not doing crazy doses. So yeah. But if you want to do an experiment, fuck it. Do it and let us know. How about you tell me after you do that for 10 weeks how it goes?
I'm not a fan of it.
It's not going to go bad. I'm not either. That's why I'm not doing it. But I mean, I'll give some, you tell me how it goes. If it works geniusly, I still can't do it because I can't take Deca.
I just feel like there's so many people that are newer to bodybuilding that get wrapped up in this idea of we're doing experiments, we're exploring these drugs. And I would say, and I think I said this last week, was just like, just do what works. Because what do you want to do? Do you want to be a scientist, or do you want to be a bodybuilder that has a lot of muscle? Like you might be able to make gains in spite of your experiments, but my thought would honestly be like, just do the things that work and focus on your training and your nutrition while you're doing those drugs that work, because like that's the way you're going to be able to grow the most. Don't lose sight of the end goal. The end goal is not experimenting, not being a scientist. You're not going to win a prize. You know what I mean?
This goes for everything. The whole like kind of if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of a thing. Like the other day we trained legs yesterday, and I think it was halfway through. I was like, "What do you want to do next? Do you want to do a leg press?" And we're like, and I remember Braden said something to me and we kind of laughed. It was like, well, that's what we always do. And we joked how like, Braden and I started training together like 4 years ago, and he was hack squatting like 4 plates.
Okay.
And now he's hack squatting 8 plates for 10.
Fuck.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing leg press next.
I think
that's what we always do. Because that's what we're doing is working. Like, you know what I mean? Considering what I've been through, I'm maintaining my strength and size really well. And then he's just adding a plate to everything every year.
Nice.
So yeah, we're going to keep training this way. There's no reason to change anything.
You know what's funny though? There's apparently a misunderstanding or bad information out there. I had a guy this weekend. It was actually great, and it worked out well. But he told me, he goes, and I've had other trainers, and I had to get rid of him. He goes, and he said to me, he goes, because I understand, I know that you have to change your training every couple of weeks, and you have to change your diet. That's the only way you're going to improve. And I'm like, no. I waited, and I said, no, none of that is right. He was like, what do you mean? And then I broke down. I was like, well, if you're getting stronger, you are changing your workout. You are.
Yeah, you're lifting more volume. Your volume is going up, technically.
And I said, and why do you have to change your diet? Like, why? I said, if you weren't changing, then something has to change.
Yeah.
But if you're changing, like, why? But the point of me bringing it up is not that he was wrong. It's that he knew this. I know these things, and I'm like, don't tell my clients, because I tell them up front. I'm like, we're gonna run this until, I don't know, the end of time, possibly. I don't know. I mean, there are tweaks, but overall, the only time I will tell them, if you are just fucking bored and you want to do something different, tell me. But we don't need to change this because you are changing quickly.
Yeah.
So, but I found it very interesting because he knew you had to do that. And I'm like, you are talking to a guy who changed his training in 2009. Before you considered going to the gym was the last time with the goal of bodybuilding was the last time I changed my training, within reason.
Yeah. And even people that are having a hard time, it doesn't necessarily mean they're on the wrong path. Sometimes it's just really hard. Like, this is really hard. So like some people are like, I think I need to change my diet. You know, I've only lost 4 pounds in the last month. And I'm like, well, you're making like progress. There's not a lot of like, maybe you need to tweak your diet, but like, you don't need to change too much. And if you change too much, like that, you risk, you know, you're already telling me you lost 4 pounds of fat in the last month. So like, if you do that for 10 months, that's 40 pounds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a certain amount, you know, or even half a pound. I lost half a pound last week. I need to change something. And it's like, I don't know if you do a whole bunch of those weeks in a row and you'll see a massive, you'll look different. So being patient too is part of it.
Do you remember Dorian used to say that you should have visible change every month? And if you have that, then you're fine. And if you do not have change in a month, then yeah, you got to look at something. But sometimes I think the other factor, beating a dead horse here, but is the thing that might need to change is just the amount of effort you put into the exact same thing.
Yeah, you can never really see how much effort someone is putting in, you know, actual effort into the sets. And that's one of the things that's just impossible to measure. And some people never are able to really measure it themselves, but that the amount of effort that you put into like just your working sets, that's a huge thing. Like just imagine you're prepping someone for a show and they're sticking to the diet perfect and they're doing the cardio exactly the way you tell them, but maybe they're just not training as hard on those sets and they're taking like really long breaks, so the workout's not as intense. And over time, I just wonder how many calories that adds up to. Like how many, the post-workout window where your body's really roasting calories for, another 12 hours because of how hard you trained. I wonder, you just do all the math on that. I wonder if it's a few pounds of fat at the end of the prep, just a couple pounds of fat that would have made the difference.
Which is enormous.
Which is enormous. Even 1 pound of fat can make a visual difference, right?
Sure, for sure.
Two people that are shredded to the bone.
Absolutely.
And you just wonder, like, there's just, you can't make them grind out those extra reps and like do that fucking really brutal last set of leg press that they just don't quite put their effort into, or maybe they skip that set. And, you wonder how many calories that set would have resulted in metabolically, over the recovery period and all that,
Yeah.
Never know.
I always tell my clients, no one but you knows that. If you left one rep, if you step off the treadmill 1 minute early every day, no one will know.
Yeah,
but
you'll know.
You will. And I think if you're really on a hunt for the best you can be, you also know, I've done that. Hell, I did that a couple times when I was coming back last year. I didn't quite know my body's movements yet, And so I was filming and I'd be like, I could tell, my form's going on deads and I'm just back into dead. So I put it down to stay safe. And I'd watch the video. I'm like, fuck, it wasn't going.
Right.
I definitely left at least 1 or 2 reps on the table. And I was trying to be smart. Don't get me wrong, but that is a case of
deadlifts
how
are
those
one
things work.
thing.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like when you say to yourself, like, I think it is important to truly know, because even some higher level people, they're like, as soon as I went heavier, though, my form went. And there's a couple of occasions where I was the person filming them. I'm like, come here. They show the video. They're like, oh, fuck. That's not bad at all.
No, you were fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I will tell you when you're in danger.
So is that it for the YouTube question episode, guys?
That's all we have. Yes.
Did we go long enough? Okay. Yes. We appreciate everybody. Like, share, subscribe, comment.
And ring the bell.
Like I said, we got some exciting stuff coming on the podcast. We got some guests booked. We're looking forward to it. And just thanks for everything, guys. And remember, it's just bodybuilding.